Okay, I think we're ready to go. Again, welcome. If you're just coming in, settle in, and we're going to try to cover as many different topics as we possibly can, both in terms of substantive, about how many questions, what should I be doing, what should I not be doing, etc., as well as kind of the macro, where should I be, how should I feel, and what's expected here in the next couple of weeks. So again, my name is John Grossman. It's great to see you guys. And as I always like to say, just the attendance alone means you're on the right track. I don't mean that in a self-serving manner. I mean that you're trying to get some good practical advice. Reach out. If it's not to your school, always reach out here. Whatever you need, get good practical advice so you can keep yourself on the right track. As I go forward with some broad topics that we're going to talk about tonight, I try as best as I can to specify some direction towards what I call the first-time takers, you 3Ls, congratulations on graduation, who are actually actively doing a commercial course right now, but also talking to my repeat takers who've kind of been there, done that with the big box course, and are trying to navigate everything kind of on their own. So we'll kind of talk about some big topics and then try to be specific to each one of the communities out there so you can have some specific advice, because I know the experience of bar prep can be very, very different depending on who you are. So big picture, okay? Big picture. First time taker, couple of weeks into your bar course. Holy bleep, this is not like school, John. Exactly. It's a shock to the system. It really is. You're that rah, we're going to crush the bar after graduation. And then after the second subject, holy mackerel, this really sucks. What am I going to do, John? So day to day, just kind of macro day to day, where should you be, what you should be doing with your bar course to make the course more efficient, and how to use AdaptiBar as a good supplement to the course. And I'll get to the repeaters in just a second. Remember, first time taker, okay? 4-hour lecture, the rules, everything about the whole exam, no matter what jurisdiction you're taking, is all about the black letter law, whether it's an MBE question or an essay. The rule statement, the elements that they're testing you on those questions. That is the focus. The books, the long videos, have the examples and explanations ad nauseum. What are you trying to extract from the video? Extract from the big book, the rules. Use the explanations and examples when you need to understand what it is. You don't want to be thinking and memorizing just rote words. You have to understand there's a context to know what it looks like. But my joke always is to my students, when they review tort and they talk about a battery and they say intentional, harmful, or offensive contact of another or anything connected therein, you know what the word intent means. You don't need to read 4 pages about substantial certainty. You know what the word harmful means, and you know what offensive means. So you don't need to read or outline 14 examples of all that. And too many students are rewriting their outlines into their own cards, taking everything the lecture says into their outline, and that's why their own cards are a mountain high and their own outline are 40 pages long. And that's why you're not doing the most single important thing for the entire bar exam, which is the retention and memorization of as much black letter law, the rules, the elements as possible. So while you're watching the lecture, have your outline next to you, get those rules on some sort of a document, however you like to make it. I don't believe you need to go back and reread the outline if you just watched a 4-hour video. I believe you use the outline after it's over or make little marks as you're going forward to say, I don't really get that. Maybe I need to read an extra paragraph or 2 in the outline book so it'll explain it. Remember, the rules are the only important thing, but you need to understand it. So if the lecture isn't doing a good job explaining, I make a little note when I come back in the afternoon and I go back and I supplement with the outline material. The focus after the lecture is the organization of my notes or outlines. Keep it lean and clean with rules. Any little bit of note that you need to add, you need an example, you need a quick something just so you'll remember, perfectly fine, no problem, but it should be lean with the black letter law. So you can then begin doing the most the number one habit that most people in the country do not do, and I got some questions on this about what's the best way for retention, what's the best way for memorization. Constant repetition and recitation of law. If you can speak it, you know it. You're not going to remember everything. The whole country's forgetting something right away. But the good news is you want to remember what you're forgetting. That sounds stupid. You want to remember what you're forgetting today and tomorrow, not in the middle of June and July. which is what happens when most people take those practice tests and realize, oh my God, I don't remember half the material. So every day, habit, you're not going to, this everything you're not going to get from a bar prep company right here. From the moment you wake up till the moment you go to sleep, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, breakfast, lunch, dinner, in the car, going to school, coming home, going to work for my repeat takers, coming home, every time in the car, repetition of law, online at Starbucks for 20 minutes, repetition of law, doing the laundry, watching a little TV at night, perfectly fine, Netflix, Prime, next episode, 10-9-8-7-6, then 10 seconds, you could be reciting some rules while you're waiting for the next episode. Constant repetition. That's the way things stick. Rereading, re-listening, re-watching sounds good when you're doing it, but a day or a week later, there's not a lot of retention. If you can speak it, it's part of your vocabulary. Then even if you forget it for a minute or two, it's in there and it's going to come right back. That is the ultimate key. So the constant repetition for my first-time takers, after the video is over, I made my outline. You just get in the habit of constant repetition. Chopping up the salad for dinner, I could be reciting some rules. You forget, don't freak out. This is good news. Now at least you know what you're forgetting. And as I like to say in bar prep, most students don't know what they don't know because they're just worried about what they're told to do tomorrow. And I hear all this all day. Right now, for first-time takers, their problem is, I feel like I'm just checking the box, John. I'm just doing what I'm told to do. I'm exhausted at the end of the day, but I don't know if I'm learning because you're either focusing on too much of the minutia filler and not enough black letter, or you wrote down the black letter, but then you're trying to do too many questions too quick, which I'll get to in a second. Big picture is memorization and recitation. You can't do the whole outline every day, but a couple of rules in the morning and a couple in the afternoon, a couple in the evening, it really, really makes a difference. Break for dinner. After dinner, you do your practice sets that your course is telling you to do, and you're good. As far as AdaptiBar is concerned, I believe right now, I'm talking May, we're going to do 2 more webinars. I like short-term goals. You're worried about July. I'm worried about May into June. For these first couple of weeks of your bar course, when you're learning the 7 subjects, let alone everything else, I recommend Monday to Thursday, just do what your course tells you to do. On the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, after you again did some good, honest to yourself review of the rules for the subject that they covered, that's when I would begin to supplement AdaptiBar practice questions on the weekend. 5 or 10, 10 or 12 Friday night, 10 or 12 Saturday, 10 or 12 Sunday per topic. Don't do 50. You don't want to burn through the questions. And as the subjects pile up pretty quick in your bar course, pretty soon you got 3, 4, 6 subjects. Oh my God, there's so much. If you overdo it with the questions and you're leaving too many of the rules behind you, now all of a sudden you've done a lot of questions, but you don't break 58%. You want to know why you stink at doing practice questions, because half the problem is not enough comfort with those rules. So first part of bar prep right now, do your course assignment during the week, review, recite, review your mistakes. Then Friday night, if you have the time, Saturday, Sunday, you supplement with AdaptiBar on practice questions, whatever topics you've already reviewed. Don't worry about getting ahead. Make sure you're always bringing the rear with you. Whatever that first subject is, I can do 10 or 12. Just make sure I'm okay. 10 or 12 again on Sunday. 15 if it's an easier subject, shorter questions. Now, as you're moving forward, you're bringing the law with you. You're doing that review. I'll change my recommendation later on in bar prep, but that's why we're doing this now, to get you started on the right track and build the good fundamentals to get to the middle of June. Your first goal in bar prep right now, for those taking the course, is circle the day of your mock MBE exam. And you get to that day knowing as much MBE black letter law as you possibly can, and feel as good as you can with seeing what the questions look like. You're working through your mistakes, a little bit of the rust with the reading comp. We'll talk about that too. But the goal is to get to that day and say, man, I knew a lot of these rules. I screwed up some of the questions, but now I've got 6 weeks or 5 weeks to fix that. And there will be plenty of time to be able to do that. What you can't do on June 2021, 22 is go back and relearn 3.5 MBE subjects, because then your course is going to finish the state portion or MPT, et cetera, and then you're going to start falling behind, and that's when real anxiety kicks in, when you're at the end of June and you know you're 3 or 4 subjects behind. So the urgency is to get to the MBE simulated with as much law, use that as a practice test, which is really all that it is, use AdaptiBar early on to supplement, And as the practice questions during the week are testing rules, which is great, now on AdaptiBar on the weekend, you begin to see what real test questions would look like. And you get comfortable with, if I know the rules and I worked out my little rust with the black letter, I see I can get these questions right. I'm actually pretty good. This is pretty good. Now Monday morning, I wake up and, hey, I'm ready for the next 2 subjects this week. Let's go. And what do you do next week? You keep 5, 10, 15, 30 times a day, constantly reciting rules from whatever you did. A couple at a time, not the whole thing. I know people tell me, I like to put the lecture on in the car, John. Those of you that I'm humbled to say, you've watched my lectures. I appreciate it very, very much. I really do. I don't take anything for granted. But you don't have to say, John, I spent more time with you in the summer than I did with my family. I appreciate that. I'm not, God bless you. But after the first or second time, you should feel like you know the law. You don't want to just be rewatching for the sake of rewatching, because then eventually that will be the time later on that you want to do more practice questions. You want to feel like you know more law, so put the music on low in the car and you speak more of the law. It will also make you feel incredibly confident, and the double benefit for most jurisdictions out there is all the MBE law that you feel better about are tons of rules you could practice writing when they give you essay assignments. Because so much of the law in most jurisdictions now is MBE based. All the contract, tort, property, most of the law you're learning for MBE is the same rule statements you'd be writing for other jurisdictions, maybe with some little extra rules and some little distinctions. I understand that, but you get my point. The core vocabulary is exactly the same. That's why people who don't know enough black letter law right now struggle with essay as well as the MBE. So, big picture, bar course, first time taker right now. I make my outliner document as lean as possible with rules. I use the book to help me with any supplemental examples or explanations if I need to in the afternoon. So by the evening, I'm already walking around my house constantly repeating and reciting with my outline in hand. So if I forget something, I can easily put it right back in there. When I sit down and do my practice questions, I'm all about the reading comprehension and reading the questions correctly, which I'll talk about in a minute. Use AdaptiBar early on the weekend as a supplement. If you have time on a Tuesday night, Thursday night, hey, it's 9 o'clock, John, I'm done. I did my assignment. I feel pretty good. Trust me, in a week, you're not going to feel that good when they start piling up all those other subjects. So again, you just make sure you've cemented those rules in your head. Get whatever sleep you can. What happens if I'm already freaking out, John? When I lay down in bed, I stare at the bedroom ceiling. I can't fall asleep. You know what you do? You recite black letter law, because that's going to put you to sleep, and it'll make you feel confident. When you wake up and you know, hey, I know some of this stuff. I can't believe it. You can wean off of the damn outline and the cards, and you don't feel like you're a ball and chain at the desk. The rules build confidence. Confidence builds reading comp. For my repeat takers that are not doing a bar course, same, you use your leanest, most concise version of your outline as you possibly can. If you're here because you're getting overwhelmed, sure, I'm going to sound like a used car salesman. I apologize. I don't like to do it, but that's why you're here, so I'll take advantage. I have videos on the AdaptiBar site. They're not better. They're not worse. They're just a more condensed version of what you already have from your 14 versions of your outline there, to just give you the no nonsense, no BS. This is what the rules are, and this is the way it's going to look on a real bar question. So if you need clarity or more of a refinement in any of the topics, I've got 40, 50, 60 pages. I don't know what to know. That's what that's going to do for you. You can use your outline for it. Great, no problem. Use it, but just extract the black letter law. Now that you're not doing your bar course, how many questions should I be doing? I always first recommend take a good, and that's why I'm always yelling at people, be honest with yourself. Take a good 4 or 5 days. It may be more for contracts, it may be less for tort. Again, we're all on the honor system, but a good 4 or 5 day on average to get the rules down first before you start practicing the questions. Okay, I'm a contrarian about bar prep. I don't believe you learn the law from doing the questions. Because these are people that email me and say, hey, John, I did 3,000 AdaptiBar questions. Why do I still stink? Well, because you're basically just chasing your own tail. It's a game of whack-a-mole. You're not retaining any law. So give yourself a good 4 or 5 days first with a particular subject. Get the rules in your head. I think I got this. Now I try some practice questions. How many would I do? Especially because most of you, I know there's exceptions, most of you are working. So you during the day, again, I say, driving to work, driving home from work, on your lunch hour, staring at the laptop at your office for a little while. the dead time that we all have. Repetition, 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 repetition. Don't read, speak. You forget, look, put it back in your head. So after dinner, you sit down, you do a little more review if you have to, and then you try some questions. How many would I try? When it's 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, me, and I'm talking now, May to June. I'm talking, I recommend my own students 7 to 10 questions a day, 10 to 12, maybe, because remember, you're exhausted by 7, 8, 9 o'clock. You're trying to get more questions correct. If you're a repeat taker out there, respectfully and sensitive to you guys, I'm a repeat self. That's how I got into this business. Remember, doing 40 or 50 and blowing the last 23 because one eye is closed and you can't see straight, that's not, all you are is a martyr, but you're not going to improve. The key to, from a repeat taker's perspective, is you want to fix the mistakes. And the mistakes are usually not enough of the black letter law at the tip of your tongue and or the reading comp. So you can't do the reading before you know the law. Give yourself a fair chance to know the law better. Were you one of those people that just had a 40-page outline? Did you skim the outline because you were desperate to do the questions? Some person told you go do 50 a day? Well, you saw where that got you. This is about fixing the damn problem. No more black letter, because when you read those answer choices in all these MBE questions, they're giving you all the buzzwords right there in plain English or in legalese. So if you're not recognizing why A is correct and why B is wrong, you probably are confusing or don't have enough of the black letter rules at the tip of your tongue. Get them in there. Then I can practice. But when you begin practicing the AdaptiBar questions, you want to use them as like little golden nuggets. Okay, let me make sure I'm reading there. Don't just do 50 to get them done. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. You're trying to get more right. If just doing a lot was the goal, then most people who've done this a couple of times already would have passed, because you've done 2, 3, 5, 7,000 practice questions, but you're still not getting enough correct. The key now is to focus more on your reading comprehension. So I would do fewer now, 5 to 7, 7 to 10. Again, if it's an evidence question, you can get in a couple. Property contracts, not so much. It's the quality. Do as many as you can within that range, Monday to Thursday while you're working. Whatever extra time you have at night, repetition, repetition, repetition. So when you guys then decide, hey, I'm pretty good with tort, I would do about 40, 50 questions of a given topic. And when I get to about 40, 50, I should be okay. What is okay? For now, anything that begins with the number 6. If you're anywhere in the 60 percentile or above, you're great. If you're in the low to mid 50s, it usually means you need to review some rules. Which questions am I getting wrong? And that's why the great feature on AdaptiBar are the past questions. And I always tell people, go back and really focus at the end of the week, Friday night, Saturday, sit on your couch. This goes for repeat takers too, as you're doing the questions. Use the past question feature. The green answer, the red answer. What's the difference between the two? How many of these questions am I getting wrong because I just forgot or confused the rule? Don't be doing more. Those are the rules you don't know. Get your notes, shove that back in your head immediately before you do more questions. You knew the rule. I screwed up the reading, John. I read too fast. Was it because it was 9:30 at night and you couldn't see straight? Were you trying to do too many too quickly? Are you beginning to anticipate where the question is going? Focus on your own reading mistakes. When you see the difference between that red and green answer, you should see why you're getting that wrong, and then you'll be able to improve. So again, during the week, people who are working, repeat takers, 7 to 10, 10 to 12, with the good, really review of law. Then on Saturday, Sunday, if you have a little more time in your schedule, hey, I could do 12 to 15, 15 to 20. Build up that stamina a little bit, not too much, just enough to say, now it's clicking. Now I see, now I'm fixing my mistakes. You go to the second subject after your first 40, 50 questions set. I go to subject number 2. Do not stop reciting rules from subject number 1. So if I did tort this week and next week I'm going to do crim law, what am I going to do? In the morning driving to work, I'm going to knock off some strict liability and negligence rules. Driving home, I'm going to do my intentional torts and defenses. Can't do all the outlines every single day, but a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, and now it's the 3rd, 5th, 9th time you've done this. Wow, you will be shocked how many more we're sticking. Feeling confused between IIED and IED, larceny by trick versus false pretenses, character impeachment, equal protection due process, an admission versus a statement against interest. Hundreds and hundreds of these rules look the same, sound the same, they basically mean the same thing, but 1 or 2 stupid little words is the difference between the two. Half the country is getting it down to 2, and the reason you're getting it down to 2 is for that reason. Fix the law first, then you can do that many more questions. So in terms of big picture, first timers, I use AdaptiBar on the weekend now as you're in learning mode. Repeat takers, I've been there, done that. 10 to 12, 7 to 10, give or take Monday to Thursday, 15 or so, 10 to 15 on the weekend for any topic you've reviewed. You're building momentum, you're building stamina. You don't run the marathon the first day you're training. Don't do 50, 60, you're not taking the practice test right now. You're learning or refreshing the law. So get the good fundamentals of your day-to-day, get more out of it. So what's the goal? At the end of each week, no matter who you are, I feel like I know more law at the tip of my tongue. I'm not reading as much, I can speak it. That gives you more confidence to practice an essay. It gives you a lot more confidence when you're reading the MBE question, for sure. Use it, AdaptiBar, as your supplement on the weekend for first timers, and certainly every day for the repeat takers, but in modest amounts. What about how I'm reading the question? Practical tips on actually reading multiple choice questions, okay? Again, at the risk of sounding like a used car salesman, I hate this part of it, but you know, that's why you're here. There is a standalone video on AdaptiBar called Mastering the MBE. On the video page, Mastering the MBE. And that is an hour and 20 minutes or so of me going over in greater detail all the common mistakes everyone is making when they do multiple choice MBE questions. And my own little 3-step, this is how you want to read every single question exactly the same way. So if you feel there's some subjects or overall, I know a lot of law, John, I just can't beat 63, 59, 64, I can't get over the hump, that video would be a very, very targeted way for you to hopefully tweak, to change, at least be honest with yourself. What mistakes do you think now upon review that you might be making? Before you worry about that, basic, again, common tips. Practical things to be doing. That's why John's always saying, right now, don't be doing tons, try to get more right. Meaning, what are the common mistakes everyone's doing now on the practice questions? They read way too fast. They're focusing too much on the answer choices. Let me get the answer. Let me see. You want that positive feedback, right? When you're doing AdaptiBar right now or any of your programs that are online, you know what's happening, right? When you click the button, there's that less than a second nauseous butterfly feeling in the pit of your, oh, please be green, please be, oh, red, oh, no. And you ride that emotional roller coaster, genius, idiot, genius. How you doing today? 72%. How you doing today? 52%. You basically just become your number for the day. That's pretty much all it is. You want to eventually balance that number out. How? First, it's all about the law. But second, slow down reading. It's not about finishing. It's about getting more raw questions correct. Most jurisdictions out there, you know, if you don't know, I'm in Florida. In Florida, there's a number you're trying to reach to pass the MBE. In most jurisdictions, you're just trying to pass with the average between the MBE and the writing portion. So there's no, oh my God, I'm going to fail the MBE. You're literally just trying to get as many questions right as you possibly can. So everyone's worried about finishing to get to number 100 and number 200, and I want you to focus on getting number 1, 11, 19, 22, 33, 44, 55 right. Get more right of the first 95. Who cares about the last 5 per se? You want more of the first 95. So make sure you're slowing down with your reading, and you really know, as I like to say, what are they specifically asking about? Otherwise known as, what's the issue? What are you really doing in those questions? Why are you picking A? Why are B, C, and D wrong? Too many students do a lot, and then what do? They overemphasize the explanations. Now, I'm biased, of course, but I think the explanations on AdaptiBar are incredibly well written. I didn't do it. I'm not that smart, but real smart people did, and they're fantastic. But to me, those should be used as a refresher of law. You get the question wrong, I picked A, the correct answer is C. What happened? Let me see. In the first 3 lines of that explanation, you should see whether you remembered the rule or not. That should be obvious to you because many times they just roll out the definition for you, beautifully written. So if you say to yourself, I knew that, then reading the rest of the minutia of law is not fixing the problem. It's the reading comprehension. What's the difference between the red answer and the green answer? Did you read too quick? Did you think you knew what it was, but God forbid you changed your answer? You second-guessed, you overanalyzed, you picked an answer having nothing to do with the facts. That's reading comp. That's for you to go back into the fact pattern and really identify that. For my repeat takers, if you know what I'm talking about, and that's happening way too often, then that's a big problem with the reading comp. And you could know all the law in the world, but that's why the number doesn't change all that much. That's where I believe the Mastering the MBE video will kind of shake you up a little bit, tweak what's going on in here, rewire your brain, as I like to say, and give you more consistent messages to tell yourself as you're reading the question. And that's why doing more, if you're doing it badly, doing more does not fix the problem. I don't want you to waste 3,000 questions and not use the program effectively. So slow down reading, be more careful as to why you're picking A versus B, C, and D. If you fix the reading comp component, immediately you're going to be doing much, much better. Quickly, because I had a bunch of questions that we received about MBE, about essay writing overall. Same thing. I mean, to me, every MBE question is 50% black letter and 50% reading comprehension. An essay in whatever jurisdiction is the same. It's 50% the rule statement and 50% how you write. Now, again, at the risk of sounding like a salesman, as many of you know, if you don't, AdaptiBar has a new writing program, essay writing program, that really breaks down how you're organizing your essay, practical approach, tips. So if you feel like, hey, I have a lot of law in my head, John, but I'm staring at the laptop, I'm just afraid of doing it. It's very intimidating. Let me tell you something. The essays can be the easiest part of the whole exam. And for me, they're the most important part. Because in almost every, there's I think one exception, but in almost every jurisdiction, that's the first thing you're going to do. So you need to, quote, get off to a good start. I tell my students in my own classes, Wednesday goes well, MBE day, if Tuesday goes well. And Tuesday goes well if you get to lunch on Tuesday and feel like, hey, I wrote some good essays. I didn't get everything. I ran out of time on a couple, but I had great quality of what I did write. Never worry about what you can't get to and won't finish. Worry more about the quality of what you are getting to. How well did you IRAC what you saw? So whether you're going to try out the AdaptiBar program, what is the key for essay? Feel better with more law. I keep coming back to that because if you're staring at the laptop and everyone knows duty, breach, causation, damages, everyone can say offer, acceptance, and consideration, duh. But most people, I've been doing this 22 years. When people send me an essay that I'm working with and they failed, you know what they do? An offer, acceptance, consideration. Here there was a contract because. And what did they leave out? The definition of an offer, acceptance, consideration. Everyone knows why it's an offer. You can argue why there was acceptance, but no one puts the rule statement, like with negligence. Negligence means duty, breach, causation, damages. Here, John breaches duty. It's foreseeable because he was texting when he was driving and he injured somebody. You're talking about it. You're getting points. You're just not getting enough because there should be a sentence. A duty is, a breach is, the two types of causation are, damages are. Here, and then you apply. So if you don't have enough of the buzzwords here, you can't do this. That's why he's always saying your default is, I got to feel better about more rules, not filler, rules. Then when I do, I feel empowered to sit down in front of my laptop and do that. Some people just rewrite their outline because they're afraid they're not going to get everything. Remember, the goal is not to write every rule from your outline. The goal is to find the common issues you see right there from the facts, and every law graduate in America can do issue spotting. That's how you pass every final exam, so don't tell me you can't do that. But then once I spot the issue, you need to take the time to practice your essay writing, your IRACing, or whatever the format is in your jurisdiction. So the most people who don't have enough points on essay don't practice full essay writing. They tell me, I issue spotted, John, I outlined it, I read all the model answers, but at 9 or 9:30 in the morning in your jurisdiction, when the proctor says begin, you need to be able to do this in an organized manner. So if the writing program pushes you to do it, if you get a little pissed off and finally say, I need to do this for myself, then that's what you need to do. But the essays are about more law at the tip of your tongue and your ability to do this. Submit the essays to your course, use the program. The first couple essays usually stink. That's the way it is. That's great. You'd rather stink now in May and early June, and you won't believe how quickly you can improve by July. If you know enough of these rules and you're not intimidated by this, the essay portion can be the easiest part of the exam. But people think like it's going to be law school. I'm trying to get an A or a B+. You're barely looking to get half. In most jurisdictions, 5 out of 10 or whatever, 4 out of 8, 3 out of 6, whatever those numbers are, everything's curved. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but you get my point. You're not trying to get 90 or 80. You're basically just trying to get average, one point or a little bit above average, which really isn't that good. Why? Because most people in the country don't have enough of these rules committed to memory, and most people haven't made their fingers do this. Push yourself in May and early June. Now, this was about getting off to a good start for bar prep. You write when they tell you to write. And if you're a repeat taker, focus on the review. Again, 4 or 5 days, get the rules in your head. My language, you can do any way you want. My language is always, if I were walking around the house, I say, okay, my jurisdiction, if I get a tort essay, what do I know are those rules I need to be looking for? How do I know that? Everyone's got all the old essays from all these subjects for like 20 years. If you basically have outlined all those common rules and all those model answers, you pretty much know, yeah, if they test me on tort, this is pretty much, these are the 10 or 12 definitions or 15 I need to worry about. What happens if they test you on something they've never done? Nobody else in the state's going to know it either. This is my point. Get more points, max on the points of the 5 or 6 things they are going to test you on. And who cares about the other thing? If as long as you recognize it, you can always law dump something at the bottom. But if your quality of your essay is better on the first 5 or 6, you've already passed. That is the key. Quality points for what you can know, just like on MBE. Don't worry about the weird rap question. Get more of the joint tenancy, and common questions. Every one more question right. This is always my model in school. If you just got one more question right for not confusing stupid definitions, one more rule-based question, that's 7 more questions immediately. You make one fewer reading mistake on each subject, that's another 7. That's 14 more questions. The average person who misses it by 5, 3, 9, 11, 10, 12. They're always in that 10-point-ish range, give or take. Well, I just gave you 14 points, not from being that much smarter, just from being more efficient with my rules and my reading or my writing. So get more law, feel better. And that's from recitation, memorization. You should be getting laryngitis from speaking the words. Don't worry about what you're forgetting. The constant repetition is going to really, really help. So what about motivation, John? What about the whole psyche, the confidence, that whole thing? Listen to me, okay? I'm not a shrink, but I play one during bar prep, okay? No kidding around. First-time taker, okay? And again, I make a distinction because the mindset is totally different for both of these people, okay? I joke to my 3Ls when I teach at law school at the end of the semester, and I mean this respectfully and sensitively, of course. What does every 3L in America have in common? They're cocky and they're arrogant. That's what, right? I know more law than everybody in my family. I know more law than everybody in my whole universe, right? You know what you do. You were walking around the halls of your law school about a month ago, mocking all the 1Ls, right? They walk around like with the wide-eyed idealistic, talking to their professors. They actually still brief their cases. You laugh at them, right? You had that edge, right? That little chip on your shoulder. Bar prep sucks that right out of you. Get that back. You graduated law school, for God's sakes, just a little while ago. You were still emotionally blackmailing your family with all your social media pictures with your little tassel and all that. God bless you. You know what I'm talking about. Get the chip back on your shoulder. Come on. These are just rules and bubbling in some circles. Rules and writing a couple of paragraphs. Here, you want it? You really need to want it. I say this to my students in classes, and I mean this. I'm a really competitive guy. You would know that from my loyalty to my New York Jets since I'm 5 years old, but that's a different conversation for another time. I'm a very competitive guy. I want this very badly for you because I know deep in here that no matter what your GPA is, no matter what your damn LSAT score was 3 years ago, no matter how, where, or when you got to this very point right now, if you did get to this place, everybody in America can pass the bar. There's no question about that. I know it, I live it, I breathe it, and I work it 6 days a week, 16 hours a day. That's what we're doing here at AdaptiBar. I'm telling you that's the God's honest truth. You need to believe it. And what do? No, but I want to, John. I want to. Then do it the right way. What is that? Cut out the baloney. Stick to the black letter and the reading comprehension and the practice of the writing. There will be bad days. It feels overwhelming. No one said it's going to be easy, but it will be worthwhile, and it's much more doable based on the stats than you believe it is. Do you want it? Did you put up with all this garbage for the last 3, 5, 6 years? Got through COVID if you were still maybe finishing school, college, started law school during COVID, whatever the case may be. You got here. This is the last step for everybody, whether you're a repeater or a first-time taker. You got to want it. And like they say in life, no pain, no gain. No one ever said it was going to be easy, but the same way we had all those doubts in the first semester of law school. How the hell am I going to read all this stuff for 3 years? But then you learned how, and it got better. That's this. This is like walking up Everest right now barefoot. But the good news is when I see you again for the second webinar by the middle of June, most, if not all, of the MBE lectures will be done in your course, or for my repeat takers, you'll be done reviewing all that law. So the end of June and all of July, you feel it's easier every day because you're in practice mode. You're not watching, you're not reading, you're actually practicing taking the test. There will be more anxiety. We'll talk a lot about that later, but it's not going to be as labor intensive. So this is just, hey, this is the part that it sucks for everybody. And I make the comparison at this point in bar prep. This is like the bridge at the marathon. You know, when they have the New York Marathon, the Boston Marathon, at the beginning, sometimes on the bridge, everyone's kind of, thousands of people are mushed together. Within the first 2-3 miles, people start to peck away, little packs, break off. And by mile 8, 9, 10, you know what I'm talking, 1 or 2, that's bar prep. Everyone went to graduation, rah, I'm going to do it. If God forbid you didn't pass, you're taking it again. Oh my God. Oh, am I going to do this? All right, I'm going to start studying again. Let's see what happens. You know, you want it. But then after a week or 2 or 3, you just hit the wall. And half the country is already falling behind. Half the country's second guessing whether they think they can do this. Don't be that person. Here, in here, you got to want it. And all I'm telling you to want it is to focus on the black letter, prove to yourself, not to me, not to your mother, not to your school, prove to yourself. Hey, he's right. I could know these rules. I just keep confusing one for the other. So if I say this one a couple times, I say that one a couple times, I actually can do this. It's pretty good. I actually can write the essay. He's right. The same damn rules. Okay, I missed some stuff early on. So what? That's why it's called practice. Famous basketball players talk about, we're talking about practice. We're talking about practice. Nothing counts now, which leads me to, you want the motivation? You can't pass the bar in May. You can't fail the bar in May. No practice set, no practice essay, no nothing, no good day or bad day means you're going to pass or you're going to fail. It's about learning, building the right fundamentals to get to the end of June and all of July to be practicing consistently, both essay and MBE. And that's what we're going to talk about in that second, especially in the third webinar, how to balance both essay, your state portion, your writing, your MPT with MBE. But that's later. Right now, you're in learning mode. And my mantra is that the first half of bar prep should be 2/3 law, 1/3 practice. So that the back end of bar prep can be 3/4 practice and then 1/4 review. So it's not going to be the same all the time. But if you focus more on your black letter and just enough practice to begin to see what you're doing wrong, then on the back end, oh my God, you'll see a huge, huge difference. Regarding, again, MBE reading comp, quality and not quantity, I keep talking about it. So when you're picking the two, just a quick sample from the video, but to be practical, since this is what the email that I get all the time. John, I'm always getting it down to the 2. I'm going to give you the preview, okay? 3. If you get it down to 2, one of two things are happening. A, you're getting it down to the same issue. I know it's a battery question. A says yes because he caused a harmful or offensive contact. D says no because he didn't intend to do it. I know it's a larceny question. It's guilty because he took the watch. D, not guilty because he only wanted to borrow the watch. They're giving you 2 of the 4 answers about your issue, about the larceny, about the battery, and you're looking at the 2 and you don't know which one to pick. Why? You spotted the issue. Great. What did you not do? I didn't read the facts. Because when you get it down to 2 about the same issue and they're coming to opposite conclusions, it means you missed something in the facts, because the facts would have been plainly obvious whether I'm liable or whether I'm guilty. Don't stare at the 2, go back to the fact pattern. Too many people stare at the 2 and reread them as if some sort of, there's going to be a light shining on one of them and you're going to be able to know. Help yourself by going back to the facts. That's where you'll know. You probably read too fast, you skimmed, you overanalyzed, didn't see. He only wanted to borrow, he wanted to you know what I'm talking about. That little sentence that's buried right up there. Go back to the facts. Or you got it down to 2 and you always get it down to the same conclusion. Yes, yes, guilty, guilty, liable, liable, but I'm always picking the wrong one, John. This is bad news, okay? Bad news meaning you're not as close as you think you are. You're actually not that close, because what are you doing when you're getting it down to the same conclusion? You haven't spotted the correct issue, because what you'll see on your own is when you get it down to the same conclusion, those 2 yes answers are always talking about different torts. The 2 guilties will never be discussing the same crimes. The 2 con law answers, constitutional, constitutional. It'll always say constitutional commerce, constitutional equal protection. Well, if I'm looking at two answers and one's talking about equal protection, one's talking about the Commerce Clause, even if you know both of those rules perfectly, what's the problem? You didn't know what the facts were talking about, because the call of the question will only say, is the statute constitutional? So I think it is. Let me look. Now you're looking at the two, which are literally defining two totally different issues. What did you miss? The facts. Because if the fact pattern was clearly talking about people being treated differently, you shut up and pick equal protection. If the whole hypo was about Congress passing a statute, had something to do with the making, shipping, manufacturing, or packaging of a widget, that's Commerce Clause. You miss something in the facts. So either community who's doing too much of the getting it down to two where they know what the issue is about, or you're just getting it down to two with the right conclusion, what does it generally mean? You didn't read the facts carefully. Go back to the facts. Do I have time to do that, John? Absolutely you do. Because if not, what do? You stare at the two for 4 minutes and you pick a stupid answer. That's why we're having this conversation, because usually you're staring and you just pick the wrong one. Why do you pick the wrong one? Because one looked better, you liked one better, you know what I'm talking about. Go back to the facts. That extra 15 or 20 seconds will make all the difference. Remember, if you get more of the first 95 right, you've already passed. Don't worry about the last 4 or 5. That's why I also say, as an approach moving forward now, as you build your stamina doing questions, if you know from your first couple of weeks or from being a repeat taker, this is what you do, it means you're going too fast in the facts and not spending enough time in the answer choices. Go back and spend that time, because what do I like to say? If you spend more time up there and you know what you're looking for, you will spend much less time in the answer choices. You will be able to, quote, shut up and pick it and get out of there. It's all about where you're spending the time. More time here means less time here. Issue spotting, reading comprehension. Exactly. I'm going to take a look at a few more of these headings here. Study plan. Again, I went over this at the beginning, but again, the goal with your commercial course is certainly, yes, they say statistically, if you finish, 85% of the course, it's great. I'm fine. That's true. But just because you completed it doesn't mean you know what you're doing. I don't want it to be just that you're having a lucky guessing day. So what do you do with the bar course as far as an additional part of your study plan? On the weekends, you always be going back and forcing yourself to review whatever subjects you've already did. If you're a repeat taker, again, I say in the evening, my model is a couple hours, 7 to 9, 8 to 10, Monday to Friday. A couple extra on the weekend, 3 to 4 hours on the weekend day, Saturday and Sunday. Bluntly, you can't do much more than that. Don't be sneaking in questions at 6 a.m. or 11 p.m. What I would do is, I'm saying, 3, 4, or 5 days during the week for my review. And remember, what are you trying to put in there? The rule. So if you just did intentional tort on a Monday night from 7 to 8:30 with the defenses and you said, okay, that's it. What do? Tomorrow morning driving to work, I make sure that I'm reciting those torts and defenses. When I get home, I do negligence, but I keep talking about the intentional. You get my point. I layer in. So by Thursday or Friday, okay, I'm pretty good with tort. Now on Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, I can start practicing some questions. When in doubt, always focus on the law first. Then I practice my questions. Use the past questions feature on AdaptiBar, which is great to compare the correct answer and the wrong answer. Don't read all the minutia in the explanation. Focus more on the why, meaning I picked the answer about trespass to chattel. The answer was about conversion. Gee, I didn't spot the issue. I picked an answer about parole evidence, but the answer was about consideration. I missed the issue. I'm not spotting what's going on in the facts. That's my problem, and I want to slow the hell down more. I'm just going again based on here and some questions that I saw here. I always emphasize in the first couple of weeks of bar prep, if you're taking a course or you're doing things on your own and you have the state portion and you're doing MBE, always focus on MBE law first. Because again, you're not just getting the benefit of getting more questions correct, it will empower you to practice more of your ME essays that are still based on MBE subjects. I know there's other non-MBE subjects that I would do after. So I would just prioritize, not neglect anything, but I would prioritize the first several weeks of bar prep for the MBE material so that I gain that confidence with law and with practicing my questions. And I'm empowering myself to write more of those essays because no matter what jurisdiction you're in, a chunk of those essays inevitably will have something to do with MBE material anyway. Then later on, as we get into June, later on, after I get those 7 MBE subjects, then I can focus on the non-MBE subjects and focus on my memorization that way. So as far as the course jumping, again, back to what I said about the study plan, if you're taking a course, they're going to jump, okay? You do the best you can with that. So if you're taking a state that, for example, in Florida, where we have the Florida very specific portion, an MBE, I recommend watch the lecture whenever they throw in a non-MBE thing, watch it, outline it, do a practice set of questions that night, write an essay if they tell you to write an essay, but then take the outline that you made that morning, put it aside, okay? Don't worry about wills when you're still trying to figure out property. I didn't say not watch wills. I didn't say that. I said, no matter what jurisdiction you're taking, even, you do the assignments as done by your bar course. But after you've done that and you've produced your outline, you did your initial set of questions, then I would go back and make sure that I'm memorizing my MBE material. So again, because the first exam you get from most of the companies, I don't make any guarantees. Most courses are going to give you an MBE mock test first. So like I said at the beginning, you want to circle that day and say, I'm going to get to that June, whatever it is, and I'm going to know my MBE law. Then I'm prepared for the questions and for the essay portion already, and I'm minimizing how much new law I need to review towards the end of June. Again, we're talking about just prioritizing, not, God forbid, neglecting. We'll talk in June, how do I then increase my MBE questions and do more? What if I know all the law, John? I'm feeling really good. Can I just add in some more questions? Again, I'm not trying to stop anybody from doing anything. You just, again, you have to be honest with yourself. And again, you don't want to burn through too many questions in May, early June, because in July, when I can recommend to you, hey, go do 40, 45, 50 mixed a day in exam mode on AdaptiBar every day, you want more of those to be fresh questions you haven't practiced on. If you exhaust all the tort or property questions now, then you're going to complain you're seeing the same questions over and over again in July. We're trying to help you use the program in an efficient manner. The better you are with law now, the better you're going to be in July, and you can really then focus all your attention on the actual practice of the MBE questions. Everyone's worried about what's going to happen if. In July, what should I, when should I? Focus right now on the next 2.5, 3 weeks. Short-term goal. What's the goal every day? Try to feel better about the law that I've already done. That's from the constant repetition. Keep my notes or tweak my note-taking. Lean and mean with the rules. Repeat taker. You have too much material, you got the 2 boxes of stuff under your desk, no kidding around. Find the most condensed version of it. Don't read all 4 of them. Don't go buy more stuff online, okay? Mr. Bezos is rich enough, God bless him. I have no problem with him, just saying, don't go buy more. All the material says the same thing, okay? The question is getting the rules out of your document and getting it here or it comes out there. And that's where I believe so strongly in the repetition. So when you sit down on AdaptiBar and practice those great questions, the more confident you are with the law, the more present you are when you're reading the questions. So every day should be about more confidence with more law. I'm gaining a good manner of confidence when I'm reading my questions. I'm not flying through them to just finish the assignment, but I'm really focusing and I'm really beginning to see, John, that in that 1 minute and 50 seconds or so that I pretty much have for each question, your proverbial 1.8 minutes, what are you trying to tweak? More of the 1 minute and 50 in the facts and the call, less time in the answer choices. Most people do the 1 finger skimming to get down here. That's why they're getting it down to 2. The more you slow down up here, the more you focus on what the facts say, did I do it, did I not do it, am I guilty, am I not, etc., the more you know exactly what answer you are looking for. And that's why John always says, when you know that, that's when you just shut up and pick it. Exactly right. So the more confident you always are with the law, the more confident you're going to be when you read those questions. Where am I going to get more points from, John? I'm stuck at this number. How do I really improve? Again, you always improve from the knowledge of the law. And if you feel you've maxed out on that, it's all the reading comprehension. Okay? It's not then you've proven to yourself. It's not about how many I'm doing. It's about how well am I reading what I'm doing. And that again goes back to usually you're trying to do too many too quick. You're not focusing enough on the facts. You're not contrasting the difference between the answer choices. That's where, again, your methodology should be much more in the facts. And if you kind of slow down and be analytical with yourself, and that's why I think the weekend is also a great time for that kind of review of the past questions. People want to do more and more and more. They don't want to go back and realize what they're doing wrong. So when people email me, when I work with people privately and they email me, 25 questions, I kind of scroll down and say, you're basically making the same mistake on like 18 of these questions. You don't see it because you're focusing on doing too many. Again, I repeat, if you feel better with the law and I'm tweaking my reading or I'm tweaking my writing for essay, don't be lazy. Write practically. Write the right way. The worse they are now, the better they're going to be in July. You will be shocked how well that improvement can come. In fact, I think, on MBE, no matter how great you do, there's like a cutoff. Like once I reach a certain number, I'm pretty much that's as well as I can do. And that's going to be more than enough to pass. But on essay, wow, you could go from here to here to here. There's really no limit to how well you could really do because that essay is graded against everybody else's performance. So the more rules you have, the more organized, the better your time is from your practice. You could be blowing half the state away from those essays, which psychologically, back to the confidence and the mind stuff, when you leave that room on Tuesday at 12:30 or 1 from the first half of the essay, and yeah, I wrote better than I did before. I got more than half. There's no way. Don't worry about what you didn't get. Worry about how well you did write. You feel like $1,000,000 and so, thank God. Okay, so now in the afternoon, if I'm in a jurisdiction where I have to keep writing, I'll just do the same thing. I have to do my MPT. Okay, there's no law. I'm just going to stay focused. I practice that. I'm okay. And that's what you should do, by the way, also. MPT, I always recommend the weekend practice. Most people think, it's a memo. I know how to write a memo. Not under those conditions in that time frame. Practice. I emphasize MBE and ME during the week. Again, that's another thing you can do on the weekend. One a Saturday and one a Sunday, a couple extra. You'll be able to do more in July. But I'm just saying on the weekend, just get your formatting, get your time management, all those things that people take for granted. And then all of a sudden, that's why they're losing valuable points on the day of the test. But if that first 3 hours goes well on essay, you really relax psychologically on Tuesday afternoon, you feel like $1,000,000. And then when you walk in on Wednesday for MBE, my students will always say to me, John, I'm actually looking forward to the MBE. I'm just going to read those 200 like I've been reading the last 2,000. That doesn't mean they're getting them all right, but they're confident and they're relaxed. So when they do have to make the educated guesses, when you're not sure, you're acting from a position of confidence. Some of you, how you feel when you're not confident, when you're a little insecure, that's when you're more prone to second guessing, over analyzing, and God forbid changing your answer, which can never happen no matter what. So it's like a little cause and effect, a chicken and egg. I need confidence. How do I get confidence, John? From feeling better with more rules. Then when I read the question, more of these words will bounce off the page and I'll feel like I actually know what I'm doing. I actually know what to type. I feel like I can write these essays. And then it layers itself upon itself. And then I can do more questions. I'm getting better with my timing. I'm seeing those good numbers consistently. I'm not at 70 one day and 49 the next day. Slowly but surely, I'm in the mid-60s by the time I get to July. Right now, you're in building mode. And I always believe it's good fundamentals, right? I'm a big sports guy. Training camp. Get the rust out. Let's get back to fundamentals. Practice the same drills over and over again. Then we get into the middle of bar prep, June and July. That's like the regular season, right? Making it repetitive again and again. Grind it out. Good day, bad day. But I'm sticking to my fundamentals so that I'm peaking by the playoffs. Not that my Jets know anything about that, but you're peaking by July. You want to peak. I have many students who literally score their highest MBE score on the actual bar. Why? Because they use the 1,500, 2,000 practice questions to learn what they all, quote, look like. They've seen the different variations. They know which questions they've screwed up on. And I've had so many people say to me outside the convention center, John, that question, whatever the rule was, I recognize that rule. I've missed that the last 3 weeks, but I said to myself, not today, man, not today. If I'm going down, it's not going to be because of those questions. And they literally shut up and picked it and got some of those right for the first time because they've recognized they learned from those mistakes. And they say, now I'm just going to trust what I read and I'm going to shut up and pick it. And if you just did that on 6, 7, 8, 9 questions, that could be 7, 10, 12 scale points, and it makes all the difference in the world. So remember, it's not about getting a great score today. It's about learning from the mistakes So by the time I get to July, I've written that essay subject for the 3rd, 5th, 9th time, and now it's going to be the best one. I'm reading that MBE, I see that MBE question, the parole evidence one, the third party one, the murder one, the equal protection one. Now I know what to do with that. I've missed it, now I know. Because it's not just trying to memorize patterns, you've actually learned from the mistakes. So again, from today till the middle of June till I see you guys again, those good study fundamentals, black letter, constant repetition, so you can focus on your writing and your reading comprehension. Be more efficient. Don't focus on quantity, focus on the quality. If I'm reading better, even if I'm slowing down, you'll have time to improve your speed in July. Build these good fundamentals so when I see you in June, hey, I'm actually feeling much better about both parts. I got a good routine for myself. I worked out my repetition thing. I'm working out my outline. I cut out all the filler. I'm just getting it down to the bare bone black letter. And I feel better when I'm writing and better when I'm doing my questions. Then we can walk through some practice questions together and then give you a roadmap for the second half of bar prep that will be based more on, God willing, your practice than just focusing so much on the black letter law. Keep things in perspective. I can't pass today. I can't fail today. Nobody else in the country can, no matter what the hell they're telling you. Put the blinders on. Tune out all the noise. Focus on what you need to do today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. Black letter, recitation, good reading, and good writing. Those are the keys and the only thing you worry about today. You want this, you know you do. Whether you want to practice law, you don't know whether you want to practice law, you don't know why you're doing this anymore. You came this damn far. Do this the right way. And like I say to my students in class, you do this the right way. This is a key that's going to open up the door to the rest of your life. If you didn't want to be here, you wouldn't have been here already, but you're here. Now let's finish this the right way by bubbling in some circles and writing out a couple of paragraphs the right way with confidence. Get that chip back on your shoulder. Get that little big, get the shoulders up. Walk around with a little more confidence. I know I can do this. If I did the last 3, 4, 5 years academically of my life, I can do this for a couple of days. Stick to the fundamentals, do it the right way. On MBE, slow down on the facts, issue spot, so you can do what? Shut up and pick it. Stay confident. I look forward to seeing you in July for the second one, and we'll get you rolling through July with good fundamental practice every single day that has good balanced practice. Keep up the great work. Use AdaptiBar as a great supplement or primarily fantastic, whether it's the MBE bank of questions, the videos if you need, and or the writing program. We're all about practical fixing tips, practical fixing problems to get you doing things the right way, and that's what we're about. So keep in touch. Thank you so much for hanging in there with us. I appreciate it more than you know. We're here for you. I'm with you all the time, but stick, like they say, got to help yourself, stick into those rules and those good fundamentals. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon. All the best. Stay confident and stay pissed off. Take care.